So if you've never used the WordPress Block Editor before, it can get a little confusing at times. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So if you're logged into WordPress and you've got a website here, you want to start actually editing pages, the first thing is obviously knowing the difference between posts and pages. I'm not going to really go in depth on this, but posts is pretty much for your blog. So all the posts are articles or pages that end up on your blog page. And pages are pretty much the pages of your website that people will be viewing. And the Block Editor works pretty much the same across the board for both of those. So if I go into pages here, I can actually open any one of these and edit them. But I'm going to click Add New to create a new page. Now you see this here, you might not see because of the theme I'm using has a visual builder. I'm just going to click Use Default Editor just to turn that off. But essentially we have a title here and where we can start typing our information. So the title is actually the title of the page. So if I give this, like if I said this is the Block Editor test page, that becomes the title of our page at the very top of the page. And then we can start adding our content in underneath. Now you'll notice that the sidebar from WordPress is gone and we have this full screen editor. The first thing I'm going to say is that you can actually turn that on or off easily enough. And you can actually turn this sidebar on or off by clicking this cog here. So if you want to have a full screen experience, you can turn that off and only turn it on as you need it. If you would like to have your full WordPress sidebar, you can go into the top 3 vertical dots here, and where it says full screen mode, you can turn that off, and there you have your full WordPress dashboard in as well. I'm going to turn that back on so that we don't get that, and we can go from there. So I want to start off with, obviously, if we're talking about the basics where we want to start, you want to start typing, adding links, formatting your information, and adding images and things like that. You can simply type as you would any other editor. You can type in a sentence here, dot, another sentence. And you can then hit enter to start a new paragraph. And there'll be a space generally between these two new paragraphs here. Now, one thing I will say is some people get caught up trying to have new lines without the actual paragraph spacing. Hit Shift and Enter to go to a shorter line break there, and you can just simply start typing away. The other thing too is at any stage while we hover over these blocks or any text, a little block appears here that allows us to edit or change the style. So if I go to new paragraphs and highlight that, I can make a bold and italics. I can add a link by clicking this little chain button here. And if I want to link to another page on the website, say about, I can type in about, it'll think about it and give me some options. So I can link to the About Us page if we want to. However, if I don't want to do that, I can actually click in that link or click back in here, and I can click this button to remove the link, and then maybe I want to add a new one in again, and this time maybe I actually type in my address. So maybe if it's Google that I want to go to, I can type in google.com, and I do have to keep the https:// part at the start for the link to work. Now while I'm here, if I want that link to open in a new tab, I can turn that one on, click this button, and now I have a link to Google that goes off the website entirely. The other thing too is maybe you want to add in some headers. So if I'm just going to quickly type up some information here. Now I've actually copied some text which I'm going to right click and paste, and I've got a bunch of text here on my page. Now if I want to add a subheading, let's say more information or something like that. Now that I have that here, on the left, top left here is actually the type of text box I'm going to have. I can change it over to a heading, in which case it is a heading 2 tag. We generally want to keep heading 1 for titles, but you can switch between headings by going here and choosing different levels. Now, obviously, the further down you get, generally the smaller these headings will get, but for search engine optimization, it's good to have heading 2, and then if you have subheadings within that, have heading 3s within that heading 2 section. But that allows you to change the heading and the heading size and basically set that up. Now also, as with any of these other areas here, you do have your text alignment. You can change it left, center, or right. Change it back to left. There's other options here that you can do, such as you can have inline code. It's a strike through. So if I highlight this, I can say it's a strike through. If I type in, say, first lot or something like that, highlight the ST, I can click that little down symbol into a superscript so that it actually pops that ST up in the air, or a subscript. So you've got a few different areas there you can play with if you're looking to add in bits and pieces. Another thing which you can do, which I'm going to come back to, is inline images. But first of all, we're going to add an image the way we normally would. So I'm going to click here, click enter to create a space, and you'll see a little plus symbol when I hover. Another thing you can do is simply hover in between, and you'll see a little plus symbol where you can add in blocks, and a plus symbol at the top here. Now when I say blocks, every paragraph here is a block. If I click on this here, this is technically a block. If I were to sort of select, now it's not the best representation, but this is a block here. This here is one block because it's actually been shift and entered. There's another block. So every section is its own block. And you actually can go to this section up here with the vertical staggered lines and see the various blocks down the page. It'll actually highlight them. And if I zoom out a bit, as I click on each one, you can see the block being highlighted. So these are actually all content blocks. So I'll zoom back in so we can see, close that up. If I want to add an image in, I can actually click to add a block between these two blocks. And I type in image, and I can add my image. Now it gives me the option to upload off my computer or insert from my media library. And I can choose an image like this one here. And it's been inserted there. And I can do things such as change the alignment. I can make it right aligned. I can resize it so the text wraps around it. And in your actual page, it will be in line with your content, but we'll check out a preview soon. I can left align, I can center, or if I want it to be the full width, I can go full width, like that, and sort of play with that. I'm going to say none for now on this one, and then I'm actually going to add in a break here, and I'm going to add another image. This time we're going to choose something like this skateboard image, and we're going to right align that image and shrink it. And we're just going to preview and see what that looks like. And the way I preview is I go up to this preview button at the top here, and I can click preview a new tab. It'll open up a new tab and preview the page for me in that. So this is what my theme has set up for a page layout. It's not the best, but you get the idea. We've got our title, it's got who the author is, and if you want to edit this, that depends on your theme, something not really covered in this video. And you can see we've got our information, we've got our link to Google. If I click on that, it'll go through. Our image is just sitting there, not really aligned in any way, and we've got this image off to the right, and the text is wrapping around it. So you can see how that works. Now if we tab back to the editor, which is, if I go to full screen for a sec, we've got some tabs up here that I can switch between. So that's opened in a new tab. I can close that tab and go back to my main editor, hit F11 to go on full screen, and I can continue working from there. Now, again, if I want to add in more text, so let's say I've added in 1, 2, and 3. If I click on this here, it is still paragraph text. And I can insert any of these types of text here. So say we got a list, I can actually go in and hit plus and insert a list if I want to. But I like being able to simply type away, so I want to show you can do that. However, if I hit backspace in a blank block, it'll get rid of it. If I highlight these 3, so I just drag up, I can actually select and create a list that way. So now I have a bullet point list here, and it's been converted those 3 blocks into one block. I can also change it to a numbered list by simply clicking this button, and I can even click on this second point and insert it, and it becomes a sub-item of that list. So you can create pretty detailed dot point lists with this feature as well, and as before, bold, italics, linking is all there. And that's pretty much how that works. And again, if I click on some of these other text areas here, we've got other options such as quote, so that just sort of adds like a line next to it and creates like a quote section, and you can add your citation here. So I can say, Book of 5 Rings, page 168 or something like that. and you can actually turn it into what's called a quote block, and it's styled to represent in a certain way. And you've got these other ones here you can add in columns and bits and pieces, but I'm not going to go into that just yet. I'm going to just sort of cover the basics, and then we're going to get into the more advanced stuff as we go. So I'm going to also undo. We have undo up here. I'm going to hit undo, and I can go through, I can redo and undo like I would a normal text editor. Now the next part is actually going into more advanced settings on these blocks before we start investigating other blocks. So if I click on this header here, on the right, if you don't see it, there's a little cog symbol. You can turn that on or off. I've got some page settings and the block settings themselves. And over here I've got color. I can change the text color pretty easily by just simply clicking and hitting a color, such as orange. I can also change it to this green if I want to. If I want to choose a very particular color, I can click on the box at the top and it brings up a color selection. And I can even make it semi-transparent. Or if I want to type in a value, if you understand the hex color value, you can click on that. It's actually copied it. I can click on the settings over here, I should say, and I can actually type in a color down here if I want to. But for now, I'm going to leave it as, we'll just stick with the green. And I can also add a background color. So if I wanted to click on this, I can choose this light green. I can then click on the box, and then I can make it almost transparent. So now we actually have this block here because we styled it with certain colors. I click on the block, and I can change things like the size. I can make it 13 point, 42 point, 20 point. But our theme has actually styled this block has styled our headings to a certain size. So instead of custom, I can simply click up here and hit reset all and put it back to the way it was. Now I can also do things such as change the thickness of the font under here. Oops, sorry, I clicked around a bit. Under typography, instead of size, under appearance, we can change the thickness of the font. We can also change it to uppercase or all lowercase or just normal sentence case. Once again, we can go to reset all if we want to get rid of that. Now there's also letter spacing here, you'll notice. If I click on that, and I can add in 5 pixels between each letter or 50 pixels between each letter, -2 and bring them closer, or I can leave it as is. So you've got some options there with your typography, and that seems to actually stretch across the board. Yeah, and down the bottom here under advanced, if you understand HTML or CSS, you can add in some HTML anchors or classes if you are going to be doing some CSS or HTML. But for another video, if I click on this block again with the text on it, I have the same options, color, background. So if I want to, I can make the background black and the text white, but I think that looks pretty ugly, so I'm going to reset that. I can change the size of the text around as I please. I can add in a custom size such as 88, which is gigantic. Reset, and we got that. But there's also, again, under typography, other options. The letter case, if I want to make it all uppercase, lowercase, etc. And I can turn on drop cap as well, which is a little bit different. I turn that one on, and the first letter is introduced at a larger size. So you've got other options you can explore here, letter spacing, letter case, to change on your standard text blocks. Now going to the image, if you want to change any of that, we've got a few other options here. You can add text over the image. So I can type in, this is text, and I've added text to the image. And the way I've done that, again, is if I undo, simply clicking on the block and clicking this A symbol. But you might notice it actually changes it to something. When I click this, it changes it to what's called a cover block. So if I actually go undo again, I could just go in here and change that to a cover block if I want to. So we've covered a fair bit of the basics here, but it's we're sort of getting there. We've also got under the right here some block settings for the image as well. So if I go here, we've got styles. I can choose rounded and round the edges. And that's good if you have a perfectly square image. You can create circles pretty easily, but I'm just going to go back to default. Alt settings, which is descriptive text that isn't displayed, but search engines pick it up for ranking images in search, and also it's used to describe images in case you have someone who's blind reading your posts. So I can just say blue picture of a mountain and castle or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what's in there. But the image size I can also change based on a thumbnail, medium, large, or just go full size, which is actually pretty big. And then of course I can put in custom dimensions in here for width and height, If I want to make it 800 wide, I can do that. If I want to just say 50%, 75%. So I can change the size in a few different ways here just by investigating that. And then of course we have our advanced as before. So we can add a title, which is another hidden area for the image. So again, say Blue Mountain could be the title of the image. And then our anchor and CSS. And you'll find sometimes it adds pieces in there as you style the image itself. So that is the first, those are the pure basics so far, and we're going to be moving on to more. But before we do anything, we've got to actually make sure we're happy with what we've typed and we want to save or publish this. So we're going to actually do some other blocks in the next video, which will be on the playlist for this, and go from there. So the other thing is, when we bring this up on the right here, I should say, we have a block and a page section. Now, under block is whatever block we have selected, but if we go over to page, we've got things like visibility. I can change that to private, so only logged in administrators and editors can read, or I can even password protect it if I want to do it that way. I have a whole video on password protecting posts, which if you want to check that out, it's on my channel. Otherwise, there are things like template. We've got the default template or blank page, which is dependent on my theme. If I choose blank page, it gets rid of the navigation, things like that. That's just for my theme. Template, not really so important. Permalink, however, is. So if I go block editor test page, that means my address will end up being the domain, webdesignforasercoast.com/block editor test page. Maybe I just want that to be block editor, and I'll get a shorter address. So I can change that there under permalink. I can add a featured image, which if this was a blog post, will actually appear in your blog section on top of the title and an excerpt. So you can add in a featured image to your page, and an excerpt if you want to write a different one. You can allow or turn off comments, and there's just a lot of page settings in here you may want to play with. Parent page, if you're not sure about that, if I had a page for services and then a page for each individual service, then I would say find a services page and put it under there. So if this was sort of more detailed information that would be, say, within the About Us section, I can have the parent page be About Us, and this would be a sub page under that page. So all your page settings are there on the right hand side, and before we go ahead and publish this, we're going to save a draft. And we're actually going to exit. So the way you exit this editor is by going up to the little symbol up top left here. It might be a W symbol for WordPress, or it might be the logo of your website. I click on that, and we're back out in the dashboard. We're no longer editing the page. However, we want to go back in at some stage. So I've got here block editor test page, and it's a draft, which means it's not public, but I can go in and change it whenever I want until I'm ready to publish it. So the way I find this is if I'm just logged back into WordPress and I'm back in my dashboard, I can go down to pages, or if I'm editing a post, posts. But I go into pages here on the left, I scroll down, block editor test page, I click on that to start editing. Now, if I want to make sure this looks good before I publish it, I can go up to preview. Now, there's a few options here. It's on desktop, I can go to tablet, and it'll show a different size there. I can go to mobile, and it'll show the size it should appear there on mobile, but it's still not an accurate representation of what we're actually producing. So I'm going to go back to desktop. Once again, preview a new tab. To open up a new tab, we got our page, we can see our block, our image, and we've got everything the way we want to. We've got our nice broken list of 1 with a sub category of 2, 3. Everything is looking the way we want it to, and we're happy to publish. So I'm going to go to close this tab, and I can publish this page. WordPress is good because sometimes you can accidentally publish things. So you do actually have to publish it, hit the publish button twice. This little section pops up here. You can check that the visibility is public. You can also schedule when you want to actually publish this. You don't have to publish it straight away. You can choose a date, like the 22nd. I can choose a time, and I can actually schedule for when I want this post to be published. But I'm going to publish it right now by clicking publish again. You can see it says here, block editor test page is now live. So I can view this page, I can add a new page and move on and go from there. But let's view the page. And once again, we're back here where we can view the page. Now, if you ever actually logged into your site, viewing it, and you want to go back and edit something, maybe you're looking at a page and you realize, oh, that shouldn't be there. You can go up the top here to edit page. and bring up the page. So you've got a few different ways to get to that page, and I can simply go back in here to my little strike through, and I can turn that off. And then I can update. So you notice the publish button is now called update. So I can update this page, and then it will be updated with my changes. Also, if you want to change this over to a draft, so you want to actually take it offline again, edit it over a period of time, and then put it back up, you can choose this switch to draft button. It will hide that page, and you can work on the draft until you're ready to publish it again. But those are the basics. That's what's going to get you started writing, getting in things like your headings and adding in images and dot points and things like that. We've got another video coming up soon. I'm going to pop on the screen here. It's going to show you how to do more advanced editing and goes a little bit further into the block editor. So if you're looking to step up your block editor game in WordPress, check out that video. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.